There is no one alive today in the town of Pulaski who recalls wandering the colorful fairways of the Pulaski Fair, with its carefully kept horse racing track, or the local baseball teams from Laney and Anston who would come to play the boys from town. My generation cannot recall the days when passenger trains would stop in Pulaski, the sights and sounds of people and cargo coming and going, certain signs of a vibrant, industrious community. The last generation, those born after 2000, will never visit the town's movie theater, its noisy bowling alley, the cue ball, or the A&W. They will not experience the town's rodeos, the ping pong drop, or sitting on the floor of the gym at Glenbrook to watch festive movies on Halloween night after trick-or-treating. We all only carry one lifetime's worth of memories. I have mine, my parents have theirs, on down through the bloodline since planting our roots here in Pulaski in the late 1880s. But today's topic is not about me or them or even you. Rather, I'm going to talk about the stones that make up our roadside shrines, those landmarks that rest on the edge of the village, greeting strangers and welcoming those familiar who have come back home to us. When I talk of the shrines of Pulaski, I'm referring to the two oldest shrines, the first being located on Highway 32 north of town, and the second on the lawn of Eric and Charlotte Scala, about a mile south of the town on St. Augustine Street. There was a third shrine located in the center of town on the site of ABVM, but it was removed in the early 1920s when the larger church was constructed. The fourth and last village shrine was started in late 1986 to commemorate the centennial year of the parish's founding in 1987 and is located on the corner of Crest Drive and St. Augustine Streets, again south of the village center. I should mention that there are other shrines dotting the countryside around Pulaski and encourage you to seek them out, as they can be appreciated as forms of artistic expression, alongside that of spiritual devotion and historical relevance. The building of personal and communal shrines has a long tradition with the Catholics of Poland, going all the way back to the Counter-Reformation in the 1530s. They are called kapliczka, or little chapels, and were first erected by the land-owning nobles of Poland, as an outward expression of their faith on a local level. They also served a very practical purpose in the church. Since the year 1450, the Catholic Church has, for the most part, celebrated a Jubilee year every 25 years. A Jubilee year is an entire year when one could seek a universal pardon or remission for their sins, first through the sacrament of confession, followed by making a pilgrimage to St. Peter's or St. Paul's in Rome that year. For those Catholics living far from Rome, even oceans away, the following year after the Jubilee year was the Jubilee year outside of Rome. And so 1901 became a special year for Catholics in Pulaski. And rather than make pilgrimage to Rome, they were encouraged to visit their local churches and shrines on appointed holy days. In the 19th century, the Polish serfs were granted their freedom, and with the ability to own their own land and have property. The mixing of deeply rooted faith and new wealth saw the construction of more shrines in the rurals of Poland, often where there weren't churches or priests to lead prayers. Even today, Catholics in Poland meet in front of the little chapels to pray alone or in small groups, often singing Majówki, the Maytime hymns. In springtime, in the rural areas, the Catholics meet for Denik Shiva, cross days, where the local priests lead their congregations on processions between the shrines, singing devotional hymns, offering prayers of thanksgiving, and asking for bountiful harvests and the blessing of the farmlands. In communist Poland, it was a crime to erect a shrine, but most local communist leaders turned a blind eye to the practice, which allowed it to endure. So, in this spirit, in 1900 and 1901, efforts were put in place to build 3 Marian shrines in the vicinity of Pulaski. Marion, denoting Mary, the mother of Jesus, who still to this day plays a central role in the Catholic Church in Poland. 5 men played key roles in the construction of the first 3 shrines, besides their efforts in securing the needed funding and supplies. The first was William Richkowski, who donated land and labor for the Norse Rhine on Highway 32. Welcome to the first Marian Shrine of Pulaski, Wisconsin. This shrine was built in 1901 to commemorate the Jubilee year outside of Rome in 1900. The first was William Richkowski, who donated land and labor for the Norse Rhine on Highway 32. Nicholas Borowski, the mason, laid the stones and later built the second shrine on his homestead just south of town on St. Augustine Street. John Charnock, the village's tinsmith, provided the decorative metalwork for the shrines. An ex-Franciscan brother, Frank Orkanowski, who lived and worked on the farm of Mr. Richkowski, provided the much-needed labor and motivation for the builds. And lastly, Father Francis Manel gave spiritual guidance and helped to secure the beautiful statues found within the shrines. The most widely viewed shrine is likely the Norse Rhine, located across from the John Deere implement off Highway 32. It is also the oldest, being the first, built on a tract of land gifted to the diocese by William Richkowski. Contained in the Norse Shrine are the statues of Mary, St. Francis of Assisi, and St. Anthony of Padua. Holding the baby Jesus, St. Anthony was a follower of St. Francis and is the patron saint of lost articles and stolen things. While being the oldest shrine, the Norse Shrine is the least original, seeing restoration work performed in 1957 and again in the late 1980s. Julius and Betty Richkowski, Ed Ladowski, Dave Shue, Edwin Rozmarek, Bernice and Arthur Smirava, Elaine Nick, Edna Brichkowski, Vince Nowitzki, alongside Johnny's Welding and Piat Trucking, collectively put in over 100 hours in the restoration. A fund was set up in 1985 for the shrine's restoration. The last restoration occurred after a vehicle left the road and collided with the shrine, decimating the structure. And yet the locals once again came together to restore their beloved shrine to the landscape. The second shrine was erected in 1901 on the front lawn of the Borowski home located at N1951 St. Augustine Street. Nicholas Borowski was born in Posen, Poland in 1850 and married his wife Elizabeth in 1873. They started a family in the Old Country before moving to America in 1884, settling in the city of Detroit, where Mr. Borowski learned the craft of being a mason, while Miss Borowski opened their home to new Polish immigrants fresh off the trains and completely new to Detroit. The Borowskis came to Pulaski around 1890, where Nicholas had his farm, but still plied his trade as a mason, building brick homes, the shrines, and even the early church. Nicholas placed his shrine behind a line of short, carefully manicured hedges, protected by a short fence, proudly facing the east to be greeted by the sunrise and any travelers coming or going into Pulaski. Within the shrine he placed the statues of Mary and Jesus, and for many years the family lovingly took care of the shrine. Elizabeth died in 1921, and Nicholas later in 1938, at the venerable age of 88. Nicholas's son, Joseph, who was born in Detroit, went on to serve on the board of the Pulaski State Bank and opened the Barowski Granary in Pulaski. The South Shrine has had several caretakers in the last century besides the Borowski family, including the families of Damon Szymanski, Michael Rasmussen, and the current caretakers Eric and Charlotte Scala. At one point the shrine was leaning badly, and Damon Szymanski, Mike Blahoviak, Dave Shue, and Roger Van Lannen stepped in to pour a new concrete foundation beneath the shrine. Of the three existing shrines, the Borowski shrine is the most original, but due to weather and time has seen the most wear and could use some restoration work to bring it back to its former beauty. It is my hope in the next year to work with the current caretakers, the Scalas, and our organization to do a proper assessment and renovation on the Borowski Shrine. Welcome to the last Marian Shrine of Pulaski, Wisconsin. The shrine is dedicated to Our Lady of Czestochowa and was built in 1987 to commemorate the 100-year founding of ABVM Parish. The third and final shrine, to be built in 1901, was erected on the church grounds and stood in front of the second church, a low brick building which housed a basement chapel. As the construction of St. Mary's expanded in 1923, the shrine was dismantled and its statuary dispersed, likely to the monastery or church proper. There are several photos from that period showing the third shrine. The fourth and final shrine is rather modern, erected in 1986-87 to commemorate the founding of the ABVM parish in 1887. Rather than honor a Jubilee year, the fourth shrine is dedicated to Our Lady of Częstochowa, Mary, patroness and protector of the Polish people. Częstochowa is a small town in Poland where the fortified monastery of Jasna Góra, Bright Hill, houses an important early Christian relic, an icon of Mary holding the baby Jesus. Tradition holds that the icon was created by St. Luke on a slat of wood from the table of the Last Supper. The icon of Częstochowa was given to St. Helen and then taken to the Emperor Constantine. In 989, it was gifted to Princess Anna on her wedding day and taken to Ukraine. In the 14th century, the icon was moved to Jasna Góra for its protection. In the winter of 1655, the Polish nobles and monks of Jasna Góra fought off a numerically superior force of Germans and Swedes, holding the belief that Mary and St. Paul had protected the besieged Poles against the Protestant forces. After the siege of Jasna Góra, Polish forces throughout the country reacted, defeating Swedish, Cossack, and Russian armies who had invaded Poland the year before, in 1654. The following year, in 1656, Polish King Jan II Casimir decreed that Mary was the perpetual Queen of Poland, linking her to Poland's national identity, and so it was in her honor that the fourth shrine was built. Leading the build of the fourth and final shrine was Father Regis Brzezinski. Initially, Father Regis wanted to move the Borowski shrine closer to the village, but when that option was deemed unavailable, the decision was made to erect a new shrine. On September 1st, 1986, Pulaski's Catholics met at Memorial Park, where Father Tony led them in a procession, as was done in the old days, to the Borowski shrine, where there were Bible readings, prayers, and a short homily. Prayers and songs were done in Polish, and on the return walk, the group of 130 or so congregants stopped at the site of the fourth shrine on Kubiak land, where they prayed for its blessing. In honor of Our Lady of Częstochowa, the shrine holds a copy of the venerated icon along with a small box of soil from the sacred site of Jasna Góra. The shrine is also marked commemorating the founding of ABVM Parish and its centennial in 1987. It is beautifully upkept, and many folks have commented to me how serene and wonderful this shrine is. I would like to thank the Skala, the Kubiak, and the Szczepanski families for all their efforts in maintaining and preserving the shrines. As I close my review of Pulaski's Marian Shrines, I want to return to my original thought, that we all have only one lifetime's worth of memories. This isn't the case with the shrines, though. For over 120 years now, the shrines have stood as silent witnesses in stone to our community's activities. They have outlasted their makers and all that one lifetime of memories can hold. More importantly, the shrines link us in a common history, crossing generations, families, and households. Today, when anyone does the sign of the cross while passing a shrine, they perform the same reverent act performed by their parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents, all the way back to 1901. They are more than just expressions of religious devotion, but reminders of our community's heritage and those wonderfully giving folks that came before us. In no other neighboring community will you find such intriguing and beautifully constructed objects dotting the landscapes as Pulaski's shrines. Unlike faded photos and illegible postcards, they are tangible conduits to a very real past accessible to all. They are one of the often overlooked signatures of Pulaski, and it is my hope that my discussion here with you raises awareness of their presence and importance to our community. That includes their preservation. Thank you for spending some time with me for this look back at Pulaski's Shrines and for your continued support of the Pulaski Area Historical Society.